Hey, what is up, YouTube? So I'm going to cover this as short and sweet as I can. My goal with this video is to tell you my opinion on the Land Cruiser, why I think that's worth your time. I'm an owner. I don't have anything to gain or prove by making this video. If you're watching my video, you've seen a lot of reviews on this car, and it's a pretty mixed bag. A lot of what the big car YouTubers have to say about this vehicle is actually negative. And I'll tell you, that kind of scared me a little bit when I went into buying this vehicle. If you're choosing between this and the GX, it'll make your head spin. It's a pretty hard choice. And if you are considering becoming an owner of this vehicle, I think the opinions I have will be useful in making a decision. I found myself disagreeing with a lot of the mainstream conclusions, kind of the big nitpick points that people have found about this vehicle on YouTube. And you as the viewer get to decide if I'm out to lunch or if I make a good point. So I'll just tell you a couple of the things that I do and don't like about this vehicle as honestly as I can. Again, I have nothing to gain. But that's the goal with today. So let's get into it. So right off the bat, one thing that I totally agree with is the door sound. The shutting sound sounds really hollow. And I couldn't really tell you why. I don't think car manufacturers necessarily set out to have a crisp door close sound, but I think like tactile feeling, sound, and vibration has a lot to do with how upscale you perceive a car to be. And so for the door to sound like that, it's not really a big deal. Like, the door works, but it does kind of like decrease in your mind how like crisp and tight you perceive everything to be put together. So that was one point that was made on YouTube in multiple areas. I totally agree with that. Okay, the next thing is, I'll say that I totally disagree with this. My wife totally agrees with this. Everyone has heard that the load floor on the Land Cruiser is a lot higher. It is. What is that, like 1, 2, 3? It's like 3.5 inches higher once you get to like the carpeting. To me, it's totally not a big deal. I haven't cared at all. Anything big I haul, I just hook up to whatever I'm towing it with. I'm not going to put like a bike back here. I really have no desire to do that. If there's something seriously heavy that you end up having to grab and lift, like, yeah, I guess you'll have like a half second more time of pain. Maybe you'll hit this because you don't expect it to be so high. But really, it's just every single video ragged on this as though it was like the introduction of a 3-cylinder engine on the Land Cruiser. Like it was a big deal, and it's really not. However, my wife, every time she opens this back, she can't help but say something about it. So I'm just at a point where, like, I guess I just agree to disagree. I can understand that some people think that's a really big deal. My wife does. I seriously couldn't care much less than I do now. So it's maybe like a half second extra of pain. And then the fact that it doesn't have a third row is kind of a bummer. I think with any vehicle, it's better to have more seats rather than less. You're gonna have to kind of sort through that situation with your own family, but for us, it's not really a big deal. And if anything, we have some cup holders. We do some car camping, so. All right, so the next thing I definitely agree with the mainstream on is the drivetrain choice. I think the complication of it is what I'm most bummed about. I'll get into like the power and the sound in a second, but just as a drivetrain, the 4Runner was known for that 5-speed and the V6 combo that never died. And it was extremely simple, if anything, undertuned, right? And this thing is cranking as much as it can out of 4 cylinders. The hybrid is made for power, not efficiency. And there's a turbo in the mix, applying more pressure on the components. So like, the more complicated the drivetrain gets, I just know the less life this thing's gonna realistically experience. The car only has as much life as you're willing to put money into fixing it when things do go wrong. And when it comes back to back, like, either a turbo rebuild or something doesn't get caught in time, so it causes bigger problems like an oil leak, and then like the battery gets changed. When you just go back and forth from those, I don't foresee people being like, yeah, this thing has another 200,000-300,000 miles in it by the time those problems happen. And again, a car only lasts as long as people are willing and perceive that it will go longer, so they put money into it. So I don't think I'll have the vehicle long enough to matter that much, and you have to consider that as an owner. Like, how long are you going to own it? Is that really going to be a problem? But it is a bummer because it will affect the resale. So I do agree that the complication of the drivetrain is kind of a bummer. Now that brings me to power. So as an owner, I gotta say, I would rather have the V6 in the GX, hands down, because we should talk about gas mileage and power in the same stroke. Because if you're gonna buy a vehicle like this, I mean, you can say gas mileage is a big deal, but you're really kidding yourself. This thing is not going to get that good at gas mileage. What I'll say is that as an owner, it's a nice touch to get good gas mileage. This vehicle clearly goes places my other vehicles don't. I don't care if it gets that good of gas mileage, right? But with that said, on the stock tires, I was expecting to get the claimed numbers of like 23, 25 combined and in city. It was more like 18 to 20 when it was cold. I was really only driving this thing in the winter. If you check deep forums all over Reddit, everyone for some reason says this thing, the gas mileage gets better as you break it in. And that was my experience as well. So with the stock tires, I would probably be achieving like that 23 number or so. And that's nice. It's not like make or break. With these aftermarkets, I think it's on 34s, like just under 33.8 or whatever, on 17-inch wheels. I'm getting more like 14, 15 in the cold. And as it's warmed up here in Utah, now I'm getting more like 17, 19, especially if I'm on the highway. I can actually get pretty decent gas mileage, pretty close to that number. But if you're buying a vehicle like this, I mean, don't do it for gas mileage. You could be surprised and it'll be worse or better than you thought. With that being said, the power is ample. This is a thing that I don't agree with the mainstream media. I've only owned 4 cylinders, and I have a Tesla Model Y Performance. So I didn't need this thing to be quick necessarily. And I knew what I was getting into with the 4-cylinder. But even with the aftermarket tires, I mean, this thing hauls. I mean, it's gutsy, and the 0 to 60 is probably like, I don't know, 7.5, I'm guessing here. But like the feeling it creates in your seat is kind of where it's at as far as perceived speed. And I think it has plenty of power. And I've heard many reviews talk about how they feel like it's struggling to get up to speed. Like it struggles, like the engine it's being taxed just to get to 35 miles an hour, and that's just not my experience. And I get that a lot of car reviewers are probably reviewing fast cars all the time. And so it comes to this and it's like, this thing is struggling. And I don't know, that may or may not, that's neither here nor there. But to me, as an owner, this thing has incredible power. I'd prefer the V6, but mostly because it wouldn't involve a hybrid. As far as power, I don't really think this thing is lacking. You're not really going to care all that much. So you take and run with that or judge it as you see fit. I'm just hoping to help you make an observation. And, maybe I'm, like I said, out to lunch. One thing I'll say about the hybrid system, this being an off-road vehicle, I very much use for off-road purposes. I'm probably off-road because I drive my other cars as dailies, probably like 40% of the time in this vehicle. Something crazy like that. We live next to the mountains and it's so fun to get up there. Didn't even have time to like clean it before this. Because it's an off-road vehicle, in the past when I've had off-road vehicles, you notice that you burn gas like crazy up the mountain. You definitely get like, you burn 3 miles worth of gas every mile. But then going downhill, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do better. And it burns like, it seems almost the same amount of gas. This thing has been nice because the hybrid will kick in as long as you don't have it in, lockers or anything, which if you're going downhill in dry conditions, that's how it's gonna be. And what I love is it's dead silent in the cab. I could hear, in fact, and I could get into this more, but the most vulnerable part of this vehicle as stock, well, it's not stock, but is the fender. That's the only place I've been able to contact a rock. And I was able to hear it very clearly because I was going down a slope and the car is just dead silent. I mean, it's really nice. And I love Teslas, I love electric vehicles, so maybe that's not everybody's cup of tea. But if you try it, it's kind of fun just to not hear anything but the gravel crunching. And then the gas mileage going downhill is noticeably better than in a gas vehicle. Rather than the cylinders accompanying you every foot of the way, the engine will be off most of the way down a hill. And that's one thing that I actually like about the hybrid. So take that as you will. It's not for everyone. All right. Something has got to be said about the sound of the 4-cylinder. So I think this is probably where I'm more controversial, and a lot of folks would say you've been driving a Tesla for too long, and I might have, I don't know. But I love the sound of the engine. That's a mainstream nitpick that most people find with this vehicle, is they say the 4-cylinder is underpowered, it's too complicated, and it doesn't even sound good. And pretty much on all three of those, I mostly disagree. The 4-cylinder is the best 4-cylinder sound I've ever heard. If you're buying this vehicle, you're not buying it for its sound. You might nitpick a, Corvette or a G-Wagon or something of that manner much more than you would nitpick this. So it's not going for trophies based on just the sound. However, maybe because of the displacement of the 4-cylinder or its ability to make more torque than an average 4-cylinder, whatever it might be, it sounds pretty grunty and actually pretty deep toned. If I was the layman getting in the vehicle, I would have assumed it was a V6. And I'm not making this up. I don't have anything to gain. I bought the vehicle completely expecting to find some of these and be like, well, I just got to live with it. But turned out I actually loved it. So I think it only gets a little like dry sounding or like strained sounding if you string it out, 6,000 RPM. But especially down low, I actually really appreciate the sound of the engine. So anyways, this is where, if you are thinking about buying this vehicle, my opinion might be helpful if you're scared of some of these things, because it's really not a big deal. The reason I actually bought this vehicle, even with all this hesitation, was I told my wife whatever car she chose we'd get for her. She chose this, not the GX. So I was like, oh boy, here we go. I love this vehicle. I thought I wanted this one more too. But then I just, I don't know. I don't agree with a lot of the mainstream stuff. So that's one thing. I love the sound of the car. All right, so I definitely need to cover the interior. I comfortably disagree with the mainstream that the interior is too simple, maybe lacks luster. And I think people have kind of excused that under the tonality that, oh, well, the Land Cruiser is the stealth wealth. Like, it doesn't even come with exciting tires, and it's got a simple interior. It's not racer boy. There's no red stripes, yellow stripes, rock textures everywhere. And that's kind of how you excuse away that, well, the interior is a little more simple. And I don't agree. I mean, Land Cruiser maybe is the first choice for a retired person over like the 4Runner. The new one's definitely, racer boy vibes. But the interior of this vehicle, I think is perfect. I think it's the perfect amount of understated, but letting its letting its own vibes just kind of bring you into its world and make you a believer. I love the way this is set up. If I had to choose between the in-screen AC of the GX and this physical, I would take these every time. I mean, these things are just satisfying. These knobs, listen to this sound. It's not making the sound I thought. When it's on, it does this nice little suction-y. But yeah, so I mean, if you see pictures, you can pretty well tell if this interior is for you. I just think that people claiming that it's like too simple and it's not, I don't know, exciting enough, just doesn't vibe with me. I love this interior. I would choose this over the GX every time, regardless of what vehicle I chose. I mean, I love the interior here. And everything is consistent. It's essentially blocks and like half triangles essentially everywhere, and even in the cushions. And yeah, I really appreciate the interior. One thing I agree with Mainstream is that the storage up front is seriously lacking. And I couldn't tell you why. It's like, it seems ample enough. You get in here, you see videos of this for the first time. I mean, there's pockets, right? There's like little divots and cubbies and hidey holes, and there's a a cooler box in here, or just the normal console if you get that. A glove box, it seems enough. But I don't know, you have to actually get in here and try to place your own belongings to realize this is actually a really limited storage area for your stuff. Again, I don't know why it turned out like so small feeling as far as storage, but that is legitimate. There are things you can do to make it better. In fact, I made a note to show you guys. So this is a like behind screen console rubber mat for the Prado in Australia. And there it's different. There's no angle right here. It just goes straight back. So I just took a saw and I just measured it out and cut it. Has a little poke out for the speaker. And having a place to put sunglasses, something else static, is huge in making this front interior feel like there's ample storage. That has actually been a game changer. So if you do end up buying this vehicle, or if you have it, I'd recommend getting that. You could just cut this with scissors, like I was just trying to be exact, but that actually goes a long way. And I've seen everywhere that there is a like sunglass cubby you can get up here, because there's totally room for it. I really don't know why Toyota didn't give us like some sunglass holders like on every other vehicle they have. But anyway, so I'm planning on getting that. It just adheses right here. And I think those two make a big difference in here. But yeah, this area is a little small. I'm always afraid to put something right here as though I really want to like accidentally wirelessly charge a credit card or something. I just feel like that wouldn't be good. So I never end up using that space. And then the rest is history. It's just like there's nothing. So that is kind of an interesting problem we ran into. But that's not going to apply to everybody. As you can see in here, I do use my cool box. I love it. Actually, something I was looking for in a vehicle. I told my wife, hey, like you can get whatever car you want. Allow me to steer you in a first and second direction. And all the cars I chose had cool boxes. And road trips and off-roading, I really appreciate having cold drinks along the way that I didn't need to bring a cooler for. So I actually really like the cool box. That one's pretty easy to decide for yourself. One more thing that was controversial that I at least wanted to say a word about is, and it's not about this vehicle, the Land Cruiser has frame mounted bump stops, and that's normal for all of their, I forget the platform of the frame, but like the body on frame platform for all their trucks, that's just normal. The new 4Runner and Tacoma are on like shock mounted bump stops. I just thought that was really odd. I just don't know what causes a decision like that to be made on the inside of the company. I'd be really curious to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. I just don't know how it came into existence. And if anybody has, information on that, feel free to comment. We'll all learn more together. But I've essentially had friends and family looking into the 4Runner that I have steered them away because I've seen all this stuff about the shocks blowing out. And these friends and family members do take their cars off-road, and it's like, why would they do that? Just kind of an odd thing, and I do appreciate the Land Cruiser kind of sticking to that. So that's pretty much all I had to cover with y'all. I'm sure I could make a video double this length, but those are like the big nitpicks that I have an opinion about, and I'm like, I don't know why they're talked about so negatively, like it can only be that way, when I actually don't even, I'm the other direction on them. And so I figured I would end this video by telling you what I've done to this in case you have ideas for your own, or you want to know what's stock, what's not, what's OEM. Obviously, Wild Peak Falcons AT4s. I'll just show you the numbers here. 285, 75, 17. And then the Black Rhinos, I'll put those in the description. I totally forgot their name. They're 17-inch plus 25 millimeter offset. We did need to trim a little bit based on that. And it's not a lot of poke, not at all, but it's just barely there. I wasn't really going for poke. If I'm honest, it actually kind of happened on accident. I just like the rims. But yeah, so we did end up trimming just a tiny little bit right here. It wasn't much at all. And it was only because it was rubbing in reverse at full crank. It never touched on the other side at all. Any of the wheels, just this one, reverse, full crank to the right. So super weird. The roof rack is OEM Toyota. Obviously, I just let them do their thing. I think it looks amazing. I don't really think I've done anything back here. Just a little sticker off of Etsy I like. Changing that to red because the blue doesn't even match the color. And then obviously that rubber Prado behind screen console tray. That's a game changer. And I don't think I've really done anything else to this. Oh, there was a Westcott 2.5-inch lift. So anyways, if y'all have any questions, just feel free to ask them in the comments. I can definitely make a follow-up video once I've had some more time with this. For reference, I've put 4,000 miles on this, and again, probably half has been off-road or so. Hope that helps, and if you're trying to choose between the GX and the Land Cruiser, I will pray for you. Good luck.